And we will start with the approval of agenda.
Second.
It is moved and seconded that we move for the approval of the agenda. Any debate? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor say nay. Motion approved. Approval of January 24th, 2023 minutes. Any corrections to the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
It is moved and seconded that we'll approve 2023 minutes. Any debate? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor say nay. Motion approved. Any public comment? Anybody on Zoom?
Looks like someone's joining.
Okay.
Give it a second. That's just labeled. I can check. Okay, they should be able to hear you, or anyone should be able to hear you. Is there anyone on Zoom that has a public comment? As we're in the public comment section of the agenda? It's not, it seems so.
Then we'll move on to the presentation for Mike Domke.
Let me just make sure. I see one person on Zoom. Mike Domke, is that you? If not, then we'll have to just get past that. What's that? Oh, he's calling you? Oh, he's calling Rick. So whether or not you guys want to wait or
Yeah,
keep moving and then
you guys want to
move
wait?
it
You
back,
guys are
or-
good with waiting?
Yeah, why don't we just come back to it?
That sounds good. Want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
I'm
works, yeah.
with you. I think we can just, whenever he comes, we'll just cruise in. Okay, we'll go with the presentation, the Parks Budget Recap 2022.
Yeah, I just figured, we talked so much about the budget in November and then you guys approved the budget and then I think a lot of times we don't come back to it. So just to show you kind of, I won't take too long, but if you do have any questions, that kind of thing, and I know I didn't have it in your packet, but I just, included in front of you, and I have it up on the screen as well. It's a screen share pause. Let me just make sure. Okay, there we go. Oh, sorry, that's why it was paused, because I switched screens. There we go. There we go. Up on the screen, and then in front of you, I included two documents. One's a little bit more detailed, has 14 pages, and one is just a 4-page snapshot. So we'll just focus for the most part on the 4-page, the really small one. Obviously, you can kind of take a look through the more in-depth one. Some of the things might not make as much, if you might have questions for me, you can always give me a call, shoot me an email. But just kind of a few things I want to highlight on the 4-page one. This is the year-end spending for 2022. I don't believe we have any more bills that will be coming out from 2022, so we should be this should be the year-end for 2022. So I just wanted to how it's set up is the first page. So page 1 is all revenues, is just how it breaks down. So just a few things I want to note on there. If you look under public services, line 2 rental revenues, you'll see year-to-date actual was 263,743. We had budgeted 200,000 based off of previous year's actuals and what we were anticipating this year. So we were 63,000 in the positive, and so part of that, which is more in the in-depth one, but I'll just kind of highlight it. Part of it is the Sunnyview Expo. Well, we'll start with parks. In the parks, we did have the special event fee that we implemented last year in full. That was approved the year before. So we did receive $8,300 in special event fees. That was above and beyond what we normally had budgeted in years past. So that would be the Hmong festivals, the Super Soccer Saturdays, United Soccer, those types of events. One other thing of note from a revenue standpoint is we were down in trail revenue, and that's because snowmobiles, we didn't have the snowmobile trails open at all in 2021, 2022. So it was just reimbursed, and that's all reimbursement based off of work performed. So we actually received about half of it, is because they set up obviously the trails for the snowmobiles, but then they didn't have to do any grooming that year. And then the other thing to note, the other biggest reason for the revenue increase is the expo. That's the 1069, the Sunnyview Expo. That's the account that we received the most revenue from for our department. the rental revenues, like the general rental revenues were 255,000. We normally budget 200,000. So what we basically brought in 55,000 more than in years past. And then we also did have 56,000 from the health department, but I just want to, make sure that's obviously, we didn't budget for that this year because I'm sure this year at some point that'll probably end. That's for COVID testing, vaccine clinics and that type of thing. So obviously that's not something we want to anticipate on keeping, but that's what we are utilized to purchase the tables and chairs for the expo to try to replace a larger amount of tables and chairs. Obviously, we didn't use that full amount by any means, but we wanted to use a little bit of that surplus from last year of unexpected revenue to try to take advantage of replacing some things over there. So kind of back, sorry, I was just going through some more of the detail, but yeah, so that's the 263,743. Just kind of highlights where and why we were 63,000 in the positive. You'll see under interfund, just a little bit down under interfund rental revenues, the 56,368. That's that health department. You can see that separated because it is our interfund revenue, and that's really the only interfund revenue we received last year. So at the very, very, very bottom in the gray bar, you'll see revenue total at the bottom of page 1. And that's where it kind of gives you the bottom line of what our revenue was. So our revised budget, which was our budget at the beginning of the year or after any revisions from the board, was $317,064. We had a year-to-date actual of $422,123. So we were positive by $105,059. So it was a good year from a revenue standpoint. Kudos to Rick and really the park maintenance team too, and Justin, all three of them do a lot of work when it comes over to the expo. They all have a hand in either whether it's the maintenance or whether it's bringing in writing up the contracts and bringing in events. We'll get to that a little bit more in our department update in regards to this year's events, but we're looking at another good year in regards to events. So then the last or the 3 pages after page 1 are all expense. There's more expense line items than there are revenue line items. But basically from an expense standpoint, I'm just going to highlight a few things. There's really not much to highlight under wages. Obviously, it's one of our largest line items with any department. We were a little under last year. The biggest reason we were under is we had in the beginning of the year, we had some staff turnover. We hired 2 new staff members last year. So that was the biggest reason for any sort of gap there. We also had the Sunnyview Expo part-time caretaker was vacant from July through December. So, that's part of the reason for, and that happens most years, unless we cross our fingers this year can stay full staff the entire year. So that would be great. Then we would have our first normal year in a while. Travel, you'll see that I want to highlight this one, even though it's really small. We were over $333. The reason I'm highlighting that is because travel is one of those budgets that's kind of separate. So wages are separate, travel separate, and then the rest of your expenses. So travel, so that's going to go to Personnel and Finance Committee in March for approval of a budget adjustment, which essentially you'll see at the end in whole the rest of our budget can take over for those $333 and account for the $333. But they do have to make that whole just because of how that account is set up. Now, the reason it is $333 over is because when I first was hired in 2021, the county executive signed me up for Leadership Oshkosh. It's a fall through spring training. And essentially we were under the assumption we could put it all in 2021. Well, finance told us basically you have to split it at 50-50 since the training's happening. So that put 2022 over because that was after we had already budgeted for 2022. So that's the reasoning for that being a little over. If we go to page 3, really most of these line items, nothing too special. Obviously some are a little high, some are a little low, but at the end of the day, the bottom line in those accounts is really, what's important, because if something breaks in one area, then we have to make up for it in another area. And one example is under operating in page 3, you'll see motor fuel was $11,881 over. And essentially that's our diesel fuel. So as obviously, as we know, diesel fuel, and then that last one, motor fuel, there's 2 motor fuels, but the second one that was $3,131 over, that was gas, and with gas prices going up last year. So We obviously raised those budget line items for this year. But that, so when something like that happens because of COVID or that kind of thing, we have to then adjust in other line items to make sure we stay within budget. So just highlighting that. And then the last page, a few other things, one other thing to highlight here. You'll notice under repairs and maintenance, which is the top section, under maintenance of vehicles, we had revised budget of 45,000. We only spent 20,000. The only reason I want to highlight that, or I should say we spent 24,000, we had 20,000 remaining. That is the highway fixing our vehicles. As maybe many of you know, highway was down to one mechanic, I think even at 1.2 at the most. For a long time last year, so they stopped fixing some of the vehicles outside of their own because obviously they only had 1 out of 5 mechanics. Now they're back up to full staff, so slowly they're integrating people back in. But then what you'll notice is under contractual services, vehicle repairs, that one was 10,000 over because obviously then now we're taking our vehicles to Cliffs or to other Cliffs for oil changes and our tractors to other places. So just you're aware there. And then obviously the other big one on this page is utilities. In total, we are 14,000 over in utilities. Mainly once again, an issue with inflation with COVID. We did increase our utilities for this next year to anticipate the 8% for this year. So hopefully that has adjusted for that. And then bottom line at the end of the day, you'll see the bottom gray bar again, where it says expense total at the very bottom of page 4. Our total budget was 1,794,000. We spent 1,668,000 for a balance of 125,000. And then you'll notice at the very bottom, the dark, almost black row, the bottom right number of 230,390. Basically, that is how much in the positive between the revenues, and that includes revenue and expense. So between our extra 100 in revenue and then our being under 125,000 expense, we came out positive 230,000 from last year. That does not include our boat landing. So I'm just going to real quickly, if you take your bigger packet and you just flip to the back side of the bigger packet, that is the 1070 account, which is our boat landing. Actually, the inside page 2 is also revenues from our boat landings. So this last page of the 14-page packet. The biggest thing I want to highlight here is this account is a special revenue account, which means that the funds roll over. So if we're under, we need to make sure that there was funds in here to help pay for that. If we're over, we have more revenue and expense, then it rolls over to the next year for future expenses in the boat landings. So if we have a capital project we want to take care of, or one of those, or that type of thing. So just, it's not listed on here because the financials don't list it on here, but just so you're aware, the amount we have in this account at this point is 134,000. So obviously it went up, and what you'll see at the bottom of this is it went up 25,000 because the bottom right corner is positive 25,000. So that's how we know it went up that amount. So yeah, so that's, I just wanted to let you know where we're at. So it's at a healthy amount, but as you can tell, I mean, like, for instance, we're doing the Grumman boat landing project for 2 million. It could, now something like this could cover something like our fee stations. We're looking to do through the ARPA request for 120,000. Obviously, I think it makes more sense through the ARPA request at this point, but if we didn't have ARPA, those types of projects would probably come out of here. So we're talking about the smaller capital projects. Let's say we have to fix just the landing, like Eureka is a good example. Tom and I have been looking at the Eureka boat landing. The landing itself is pretty rough and we might have to do some concrete work. Well, that's not going to be, that's not going to be cheap. We're talking probably $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. It'll probably most likely a request to use these funds would be for a project like that. So I know you just received this information now. So obviously, if you have any questions now, absolutely, I can help answer. If you, after you look through it, you're wondering about a line item, or you're wondering about anything, you can give me a call too. But yeah, just wanted to run through it. Give a snapshot.
New members, we used to pay for the buoys out of here. If we were paying for the buoys, that's about $80,000. The last 2 years, the county picked up the money for the buoys. So we would basically be way in the hole on that.
Buoys are, to his point, buoys are page 9 of 14 on the bigger packet that was moved over. We've always had this 1068 account, but it wasn't being used how we thought it should be. And yes, exactly. For the 2022 budget, so in 2021, we adjusted it and the board approved to put all buoy expenses other than the 11 buoys that are at the boat landings for the purpose of the boat landings. Like if the boat landings were gone, those buoys would be gone. So that's the only reason those are still in the boat landing.
I think 3 questions. Thank you. Did our department get covered fully for any expenses involved at Sunnyview doing COVID testing and stuff, or?
So we ended up doing with the 56,000 roughly that we brought in for revenue. That was calculated from, so in order to rent the south wing, it's roughly $500. That's a round number. So because it's another department and because obviously it's in the county function, it was a charge of 500 for a week rather than 500 per day.
Okay,
So, I mean, yes, the health department does, and Rick could explain a lot more, if you have more questions on the details, but they do a lot of their own maneuvering of chairs and tables. We do definitely help, occasionally, but for the most part, they've been pretty self-sufficient. Correct? I mean, other than using the space, obviously.
If we have a paid event in there and they have to relocate testing or clinic over here or something, they're doing 98% of the breakdown, getting rid of the tables and chairs. And we just go in and clean the carpets and stuff and
okay,
do the event, and they come back and set up their equipment for the following week when they're back in there.
all right. So
It's not a lot for
this
us.
probably didn't lose anything overall now. Okay, second question of 3. Looking at dental insurance, and this is probably, specified by the county, but I guess I haven't paid attention to what dental insurance looks pretty small for the employees. Does your dental coverage really cover anything? This looks like a small number for an entire department.
Yep, so I could speak to it a little bit only because my daughter has braces. Orthodontics, it really covers nothing,
Okay.
pretty much. I think we got $1,000 as like a stipend type of thing.
Annually. So if you
Yeah.
can't even get it wrong, it covers basically 2 cleanings but that's standard dental coverage. unless you wanna-
It is pretty standard, yeah,
Okay.
compared to other places I've been, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't cover much, but it's pretty standard compared to other comparables.
Okay, then my third question, that, 230,000 surplus that we have, do we return any of that to the county, or does that go into does it just roll over
So,
for next year, or what do we do with that?
yeah, so we don't have a general, so since we're not a special revenue account, so it doesn't roll over like the boat landing, it goes to the general fund.
Okay,
Any overage from any department goes to the general fund,
okay,
unless they're a special revenue account.
all right,
Or your enterprise fund, like highway.
Right,
fire, they
correct.
keep their money. We run a tax levy, so because we're on the tax levy, it goes back to the taxpayers.
Okay.
General fund.
all right. Those are my questions, thanks.
Great question. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll move forward to discussion and action of nominating and filling vacancies on the Parks and Rec Committee.
I'll eliminate Karen Bowers for chair.
Second, if you need a second.
For chairman.
You say the vice chair.
Oh, I thought I was gonna be the chairman.
No, we're nominated chairman.
Okay, I just didn't know because Tom called and asked, and I didn't know that's how it went or not.
No, it's not.
Yep, then I'm
We
totally.
nominate, then the secretary will be open.
Yeah, and I can pull up, I know I sent out those Friday updates, I did include, because I talked to Mary Ann. With core counsel, just to confirm before we had this, how does this work? So that way, if I could give any guidance to the committee, because it's obviously it's your committee, but. There is and I apologize, I don't have it right in front of me, but I could pull it up. There's a section in the county board rules. That basically says when a vacancy occurs, that the committee nominates and votes on. Any vacant, so I left it very general, so that way, if any vacancies occur because of you nominating somebody, that you can then fill that vacancy. So today we can fill any and all vacancies that occur based off of whatever you decide. So
Perfect.
just so you're aware.
Cool. I'll say it is moved and seconded that Karen Powers becomes chair.
I got a question.
Oh, any debate?
Does he have to ask that 3 times?
I don't know. Go ahead and ask him 3 times. Are there any nominations from the board?
Or are there any nominations?
Can I nominate you again, Josh? Is
Yeah,
that okay?
yeah,
Okay, perfect.
and then. Are there any other nominations? Are there any nominations? Are there any other nominations? Okay, it is moved then. Oh, sorry, my bad. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we're voting on Karen, right?
Yep, both.
Because you didn't get a second, did
You
you?
did not get a second.
Right.
No,
Okay,
all those in favor say aye for Karen as chairman.
Aye.
All those in favor, or not in favor, say nay. Motion approved.
I would nominate Josh for vice chair.
Second
We
that.
already had-
So he's already in vice chair, but you were secretary, so that creates a opening as a secretary.
So we're leaving the vice chair. We don't-
So the vice chair, so it's only vacant positions.
Okay, then I would nominate, Jim Ponzer for secretary.
I'll accept because it's easy.
Oh, and just so you know, next week or next month, Justin won't be taking minutes anymore. If it's the secretary.
Are you
Justin's
okay
like,
if I second you, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it is moved and seconded that Jane Ponzer become secretary of the Parks and Rec Board. Is there any debate to that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor say nay. Motion approved. Okay, next up, we got discussion action of the community park shelter fees.
Does Karen take over now?
I'll leave it up to you guys. I mean, Josh and I prepped for this meeting together, so it's your committee. So I kind of however you guys want to run
If
it.
you and Josh have already prepped, let's.
Completely up to you
Yeah,
guys.
let's.
It's not, yeah, if you want to, it's not gonna bother me.
No.
Okay.
No, we're gonna drill you.
Yeah, this is a nice practice session.
Let's go back to number 5.
Once Mike gets here.
Yeah, he'll be here in a half hour, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he
Be
called,
here in a half hour.
yeah, Rick came over and told me he'd be here in
Okay.
a half hour at the beginning. So we'll still do that.
Perfect.
Okay, so moving forward to the discussion such action of the community park shelter fees.
Yeah, so I apologize. I'll do a quick update of this. This was supposed to go to PNF. I had talked to the county executive office about another change I wanted to make that I thought maybe we could just do after, but they thought because it was within. I'll explain it to you. I have it up on the screen because it's within the same section. They thought it might make more sense if we do it all at once. Obviously, it's up to the committee whether or not you guys will want to move all of it or parts of it, but I'll explain. So what we approved, because I know Rachel, you weren't on the committee actually last month when we went through this, we approved actually this section down here. So this section down here, basically the new shelter fees, the deposit, and there's a slight suggestion by Corp Council to just allow the security deposit to be a discretion that it was supposed to be $25, but discretion of the parks director. For me, either way, honestly, it doesn't matter to me. The idea is that if we ever need to, originally it was $100, which I just thought was a lot for a security deposit. So there's that small change, but then it's this larger change. So Justin and I have been working in his new position with well, not new at this point, but a year into it, program marketing coordinator position. We've had people reach out to us. Obviously, we've been doing this bagel program. And we've also had people reach out in terms of like using the pavilion and basically partnering for different programs and events. So one of the things is in the current code, it says that item 2 here, or line 2, it says the following fees shall apply for the reserved use of picnic shelter buildings of the community park. And then number 1 says no person shall use any facility, land, or area for which a fee has been established by the park committee without payment of such fee. So what that ends up doing is it kind of locks us into these fees down here. So for instance, as an example, Justin and I are meeting at 10:45 here this morning with a group, Oshkosh Rec Department and PDS Fusion that we're working with for the BAGO program. And they want to maybe do like a cycling class in the pavilion next winter, which now there's other things we need to look at in terms of maintenance, and the heat hasn't been turned on. We're gonna actually test it in March to see if it even turns on, because it hasn't been on in 4 or 5 years. But the point is at that, if we partner with someone like that, basically we're stuck with the fees that we have to charge them, and at $150 per day, if they're running like, let's say a 3-day a week, and I'm just rolling off numbers. Let's say they're doing a cycling class 3 days a week in there, 3 nights a week. They're essentially paying $450 and per week to use that, and the amount that they have to charge participants, the program wouldn't work. So what we're proposing is adding this line that says, so no person shall use any facility, land, or area for which fee has been established by the committee without payment or such fee, unless the county executive or designee authorizes a waiver or negotiated rate, as a partnership with other agencies, businesses, volunteers, or other nonprofit entities to host public events or programs which will promote the use of the parks or promote health and wellness. So the idea being that the park staff have the ability to work with these groups, and as an example, because that was my job as a programmer. A martial arts place would come, or we want to fill our place and we're going to put a martial arts class in the pavilion, let's just say. They charge typically $50 a person, that type of thing. Basically, what we do is we look at it and we say, well, how much work do Justin and I have to do? If it's just literally giving space, obviously we want to cover utilities and some of those types of things. And then some staff time, because obviously we're also going to be marketing it and pushing it and trying to get people to be aware of it. So really, we're covering utilities and administrative fees essentially. So what we would potentially do in a case like that is basically say, okay, we'd want 10% per participant, or we'd want $10 for every participant that signs up. So that way the program or the partner that we're working with knows that even if they only get, because a lot of times when you start an initial program, it takes, the first time people sign up for something, let's say it's 5 people, but then as people start to know about it, okay, now you get 10 people, 15 people, and you start filling the classes. So the idea is that otherwise we're stuck with these fees for our shelters, and their shelters will just go unused, and, especially in the winter, and during weeknights. I mean, weeknights, and understandably, people aren't having family gatherings, that kind of stuff, but if we can partner with some, whether it's Oshkosh Rec, whether it's anyone else, a nonprofit, to put on some events in our facilities and get people to the parks. I mean, that's kind of the idea. Even this BAGO program, I guess, when I read this now, is a little gray, because, we're having events out at the park. The Park and Rec isn't sponsoring them, but technically, can we have events at the park without people paying to use the park, or even ourselves using the park? Because it's very black and white right now in the sense that this is without paying a fee, anyone. So we're trying, basically, we want to add this language so that way we can try to get more activities and people to the park. That's our goal. I mean, we're not going to give it away for free necessarily unless we're running the program. Like the mud run we've talked about with Bago, that's going to be a charge. We're going to charge people for the mud run, and we would have got 5,000.
Can we actually lower that to 5?
It depends on the program.
To get something started, most people, the senior center used to be pretty reasonable. It was to basically provide seniors a place to go at a reasonable price.
Yeah.
Well, they started raising their price, and now there's nobody at the senior center.
Right.
They get $10 to carve there on a Monday for 3 hours, and there's no carvers. It used to be $2.50. Well, seniors don't have a lot of money, and to get a program like this started, you get the people coming,
Yeah.
and then in a year or two, when you have a good amount of people there and you raise it to $10, but to get something started, to ride a bike inside of that pavilion for $10, you can ride a bike in my basement for nothing and watch TV.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I just don't know how many people are gonna be willing to pay $10 to.
And that was just an example. What we do is we work with sometimes, for instance, like with my martial arts example, it was an existing martial arts studio. They knew that they had kids that went to a different one. They wanted to come to like a different city. They wanted to come closer to where they live. We had some projections of participants. We go through that process. A good example too of what you're talking about of affordable is the glow in the dark Easter egg hunt that we're looking to do. We have the $5,000 donation. There's going to be no fee. They'll have to sign up because we need to know how many eggs that we need to put together and that kind of thing, but it's free. So to your point, there's a balance.
I just want to make sure that.
Yep.
To get it up and running, that it's reasonably priced to the community, so
Right.
that, if you've got 3 kids and yourself and you're gonna pay $40.
Right.
It's quite expensive.
Exactly.
You pay $20, I mean. The way inflation is right now, eggs are $4, $5 a dozen, but people don't have a lot of extra money, not everybody is well off, and I just like to see the program actually be successful, because right now that building sits all winter with no use.
Yeah, and we got to do the one I was talking about, even the proposal, we'll have to do some due diligence to even see, like, for instance, the heat. Is that building's heated by concrete channels underneath the building, and that takes a lot more to heat up than like traditional ductwork. So there's some things obviously we need to look at, like for specifically that program, but obviously we want to open up, like if someone wants to use shelter 2 and they want to run an event out of there, we want to be able to work with them. Technically, as of right now, if a nonprofit came to me and said, we want to run a run and we want to start at the shelter and this and that. technically we need to charge them 60 or 40, 65 or $45 when really you're gonna run a run for the community, you know, and it's not costing us staff anything. I mean, and it's on a Wednesday night. You know, I think that's the type of stuff we look at and go, yes, let's get more people to the park using the park. So to your point, it really just, it's a program by program basis, and that's why it's too hard to say. It'll be $5 for this program, $10 for this program. That's why we're hoping that we can have it a little bit more, not vague, but a little bit more open.
Do we have any, to Steve's point, do we have any flexibility as far as like, after 3 children, it's like a reduced rate, or like there's like a cap for a family?
So we don't have any of that spelled out. It would just be all negotiated based off of what
But
we're,
that's
you know,
something we could
a good
discuss.
example is if you're running it and like when I was a programmer, and that's all I did for like a city or village. You like youth programs and senior programs, you're gonna be a lot more, you might even lose money on those programs.
Sure.
And then now you have an adult softball program and you're gonna make a little bit of money because they're gonna help subsidize the youth programs because they can afford it. They're coming out to play adult softball, just as an example.
Yeah,
So exactly, we look at each program, we go, okay, well, this is benefiting maybe seniors that are on a fixed income and youth that need this type of program. And a place to be with, you know, that kind of thing. So we, you know, that's how we would definitely look at it.
okay.
So.
When, the way I'm reading it is almost like with the health department paying out. In other words, a continual event will be cheaper than a singular event. Can you work it in that way? In other words, we're gonna be using facility, whatever, every single week. Do they get a better rate than someone does it one time?
Well, it would be a negotiated rate if it's like a program that we're partnering with. So if it's a program that Justin's gonna help market, or that we even take registrations for, you know, that it's gonna depend on what program it is. If it's happening during the middle, and these are mostly like, for instance, the weekends, the shelters are in the summer, the shelters are booked. Like this, it's not this, what we're adding to number 1 isn't something that's gonna take the place, you know, we're not gonna take the place of these Friday, Saturday, Sundays that are already booked all year. This is more like Monday through Thursday in the summer, and maybe even the shoulder seasons in spring and fall, and then maybe if the pavilion is suitable, if we do our due diligence and find out if the pavilion is suitable or not. From a cost standpoint, we're gonna run the utilities and see how much the utility bill is for a week or 2 weeks of heating that building. So. Does that answer your question?
Yes and no.
Yeah,
I guess what I'm understanding and what Steve mentioned about the wood carvers. And you had brought up some who you were talking to.
Mhm.
So if they were to say, I'm gonna take it, in other words, you're talking value versus singular.
yeah,
We'll use this every Monday and Tuesday.
Mhm.
They're gonna get a better rate than someone that.
Correct.
We're just going to use it
right.
Monday. That's not listed up there.
No, it is,
So,
it's not
You want to
listed.
Change that somehow?
It doesn't have specifics because here's an example, actually, like I said, we're meeting with them at 10:45, so I don't have all the details, but they did send over some information to us. They're looking to purchase $35,000 in bikes. So they're putting a big investment in, county wouldn't be buying, you know, so you look at that, they're investing. The county is really just providing a space and some marketing. So if we would go that route, so obviously we would just want to cover the utilities. And maybe a little bit of marketing, but at the end of the day, you look at a program like that and they're putting a large investment in, yeah, they should. I mean, we should just let them use it. It's a building that's not being used. Part of this, like it says, to promote the use of the parks, to promote health and wellness. So the goal is really to allow people to utilize the park space. And obviously we don't lose money necessarily where it affects our budget as we went through our budget. But if we can make it neutral, even, I think that's a benefit. I mean, we don't need to make money off of this. And that's the point, is because if you look at it, $150, well, we're making money off of it. That, you know, we don't need to make money off of it because they're gonna be there on Wednesday nights and they're paying $35,000 for bikes. And, you know, so it just as an example, I haven't met with them yet, but I've seen the numbers of how much it might cost them. So obviously, we have zero investment in it. We don't need a large return back, in my opinion, and that's what we're hoping. But each program is different. Someone comes to us and says, well, we want you to supply this, this, and this, and this. Well, now we might need 50% or 40%, you know, whatever. It kind of depends on the program, and that's why it's so general. Because we don't know, otherwise, every single time someone comes to us and wants to have martial arts in one of our buildings, we have to bring it to the committee and board, which we can do. But, you know, obviously, if it slows down, it creates a 2-month process for a small youth program, and they might say, no, we don't have enough time, we need, you know, this needs to start in a month. We don't have as much ability to pivot. So it's just a suggestion that staff wanted to do to try to, I know this committee's talked about utilizing the park more and getting more programs in the park, and I've been wanting to do that, and, you know, this is a way that we can create partnerships with very little amount of staff time, and be able to do it with staying budget neutral.
Those rates were established with a certain amount of staff time, correct?
Yeah, the rates for shelters 1 through.
Trying to give you an out here.
Yeah, I mean, the rates for shelters 1 and 4, we increased by $5, if you remember from last month. The soccer shelter we lowered because it was $250 off the top of my head. We lowered it to 100 because it wasn't getting rentals. And then the pavilion, we rose it by $5, just like the other shelters. Yes, from our standpoint, we go out to the shelters and we clean them and make sure that there's no trash, the bathrooms are in good shape, and that's about it.
I'm 100% for using everything, and we're not this is not a business to make money.
Right.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying if someone has a continual use,
Mhm.
they should get a better rate.
Well, and
I would think you already have covered yourself.
so I think where we're getting confused is, so you're looking at, I think you're looking at and correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
You're looking at the table under A. The 65, 45, 150. And I'm talking more towards item number 1, where we wouldn't even be looking at the table. So this bike group comes to us, we wouldn't even look at the table, that 150.
I am
Cast that
looking at
aside.
the table.
Okay,
But I'm also saying, Joe Blow's gonna say, how come he got it so cheap and I didn't? You know
because
that's
they're
gonna
running a
happen.
program and you're renting it just a normal
Well, you're gonna
rental.
make up the excuse, I don't care.
Well, they might come to you at the end of the day, that's why
I'll
obviously.
push it right at you. That was my only concern.
Absolutely. Yep.
I have a question, thank you, Mr. Ray. A security deposit may be required at the discretion of the Parks Director. Do you not make that a standard that you would have a security deposit?
We don't actually right now, and I've talked to staff,
And
especially
my
Tom.
question would be, how often do you have people who back up at, they rented a thing, there's no security deposit, then they take.
So the security, so right now, we do have a cancellation policy in terms of when we keep their reservation. With the security deposit, more would be for Tom's crew. They come to the park and the shelter's just a disaster. There's garbage everywhere. There's broken glass. Right now, we have nothing to charge them for that extra time. You know, obviously, if we come to the shelter and there's a wrapper here, wrapper there, okay, you gotta change the toilet paper. That's normal work. If we come there and they've just left a mess and the bathroom's trashed, right now, we don't have a security deposit to be able to keep for that. That's what the security deposit would be for. If you leave your space in a mess, or greater than just normal, I've had conversations with Tom numerous times and. Right, I mean, at this point, we haven't had issues with that.
Yeah, it's not a real big deal, but put it this way, if you're having your grandfather's 100th birthday party, we don't need a deposit. If you're doing a rugby festival with beer tents, we would get a deposit. And because that encouraged them to actually clean up versus just walking away.
Okay,
Right.
The 100th birthday parties, past experience not gonna be a problem. But there are events. That.
I think tend to be more littered.
Right.
But if you look at
Litter-
and the rugby club does a great job, so I want to make sure but that being said, that's a good example of if they didn't do a good job, we have a picture next to our dumpster. Just because they need another dumpster for next year, which is fine. All their trash is right next to the dumpster, which is great, but they could have used like 3 more dumpsters because of how much trash they had, but they collected it all in one spot. If they didn't collect it all in one spot, and now there's bags here and there, and the amount of time our staff would take to run around, because there's no way we're to get volunteers to come back and finish cleaning up. So the security deposit, to Tom's point, is exactly, it's used when we need to use it for events or for, if we run into, in the future where the shelters are having issues and we're just constantly getting people not cleaning up after themselves. Yeah, we could do it for general shelter use then too.
Okay.
And right now with, it's $100. I mean, that's a lot of money for us. That's, our rental $65 or $45, and then we charge $100 for a
But you
security
get
deposit.
you get the rental deposit back if everything's.
Yeah,
But
and but we
security
haven't been
deposit back
charging
with
we haven't been charging the security deposit.
Okay.
So,
I mean, usually it's the people that don't actually pay the rent, they just show up and use the shelter, they're the problem child. The people who actually pay money, they're
Oh, people who just say, here's a vacant pavilion, we just want.
10 o'clock at night, 15 high school kids show up, smash the place, walk away.
yeah, problem last year.
If we were.
Mhm. So I mean, ultimately, the goal of the change that we're proposing compared to last month is so we have the ability to negotiate lower fees or unique fees because of a program or because of an event. So that way we can continue to bring more people to the park.
Any other discussion? I'd like to move this.
I'll move to amend the Winnebago General Code, chapter 19.24A, the community park shelter schedule.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to adopt the following change. All those in favor, or sorry, any debate? Any debate? All those in favor say aye.
I,
It's not in favor, say nay. Motion approved. Mike is here, so if we want to bring that back up, that would probably be great. Floor is yours.
Wasn't quite organized, I thought this was next week, I just got back from Florida about 6 hours ago. Daytona, so.
If you're looking for sympathy for Daytona, you're not gonna get it.
It was warm, so I'll say that. So, fair, we did pretty good last year, we had a nice dry event for once, didn't rain every day. Our attendance has been going up, going back to like 2019 to 2022. We're up about 3,500 in attendance at the gates, which brings us to right around 19,000 paid admissions to the fair. We've kind of went away from the bigger entertainment, did some smaller stuff. We're trying to do a lot more local, bring in more local groups and stuff to do stuff at the event. If there's anybody out there that would like to run like the American Legion or anybody, run a food stand, we're always love that. So on the lines of that, I've talked to Rick a little bit, and I think he's probably had a discussion with Adam about the bell costers and some question about pump in there. I can tell you that I have somebody that's watching for it, a used pump. In order to actually replace that pump that's in milk house and do it right. The quote we got last summer was about $15,000. So, to do it, just to get it, so it'll cool the milk that goes into the tank, it's probably gonna be about a $5,000 repair. We can't sell the milk anymore anyway, so it's not a big deal for us to cool it right now. We've been giving the milk away to some of the larger farms that are using calf milk. So it's not really a big deal, but if we could replace it, it would be good. You can still milk the cows, you just can't utilize milk, which we can't anyway. We're just giving it away for free. So, we're watching on that, and if we do find something, I'll come back to you guys and let you know what we have. Maybe the county electrician could save us something by just installing it, or I don't know a lot about milk pumps, so I have to find out more details about it.
And I know we did talk to facilities, I believe, about it a little bit, but either way, that's what we would hope to do is work with facilities. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you take this milk from the cows there at the fair, and you give it to farmers, they're using it to feed, they're not using it to add to their milk supply, they're feeding calves.
They're feeding their calves.
Okay.
The milk and cheese factories. It was a couple of years ago, they stopped taking it from any fairs because there was a point where some of the farmers were dumping their milk Because there was too much milk going into the system or that, I don't know the whole story, but. So the farmers were mad that they were taking milk from outside, like pears and stuff and bringing it in, and then they weren't buying their milk or giving them reduced milk if they went over a certain amount. So most of them went away from doing that. So we were just giving it, kind of giving it away, so. So we can still pump it, put it in the tank and utilize it in that fashion, but it's just, you couldn't sell it to anybody which for now anyway. So as long as the pump keeps going, we're good to go. So, the refrigeration system is what it is, I guess. So camping additions were awesome this year. Everybody appreciated that. All the improvements that were done in the camping areas around. A lot more campers in there this year. So. We worked over Rick after I think we have a little better system for after this year for the track in front of the grandstand. We planted the ride in there. So that we have to put the cover on it and it can hopefully cut this summer. Hopefully it grows real nice. I haven't seen it lately.
It started to pop before winter,
So
I haven't really been out there to monitor it. Obviously, because of snow, it's kind of waste of time, but we'll see. We might have to throw a little more seed overlay on it. See how it starts coming up and the weather hits at the appropriate time, but yeah, the plan is to have a nice grass cover up until fair time.
So we worked on doing that and I know you guys have a water line project in some of the barns and we wanted 3 of them. We got a grant from Computer Financial. And we passed it on to you guys. Put some water lines in the barns. We're hoping to buy some fans of some sort possibly for in the dairy barns. We're kind of trying to get prices down there right now and see if we can find some sponsors for some of them. So hopefully we can get some fans put in. I don't know, I usually do the Ag and Extension Committee one. Is there specific things you guys are looking for from me? I'd gladly, if I have an answer, I'd gladly give it to you.
And this is great, Mike. I just, our previous chair, wanted to have some of these groups in, just, that way too, if there's any questions from committee members, and just kind of put name to faces and know who's doing what. And so, yeah, absolutely. If anyone, that's why Mike's here too. If anyone has any questions about the fair or.
I'd just like to say thanks, Mike, for all you do. I mean, they're volunteer positions. They put literally probably, close to thousands of hours into that fair. They meet every month. And I know what it's like to just post a small event. We have a carving show, the first Sunday in May. And we literally work hundreds of hours to get that up and running and try to get the people. Last year, I think we had over 500 in attendance. What you put on is monumental, between the grandstand entertainment, the bands. And the biggest thing about a fair is 4-H. You wouldn't have a fair without 4-H. So it's like what you guys do is just tremendous to the community. And I thank you for all the effort you put in it and whatever we can do to help you be successful. I'm always happy to support you.
We appreciate that. And I heard we might have a carving show at the fair. Somebody strong on somebody. I hear that's in the works. And one thing that we do too is, with the service groups and stuff, I mean, last year we gave back just like from bartending, we give them a percentage of sales. Local fire departments, we gave almost $10,000 back to them. So they can use on stuff. So that's a good thing. And, the grounds improvement, I know you guys put some asphalt in after fair this year. So that'll hopefully help us a little bit with keeping that area a little bit cleaner. And yeah, I mean, it's a task and everybody, we do our best. Try to put on a good event and try to grow the event. It's a little difficult that, sometimes, but we work our way through it.
And when we talk about, I know last month we had Life Fest in, and so Life Fest and Fair are two of our bigger events, obviously out at the expo that utilize, as we talked so just briefly, and it's not on the agenda today, but about phase two, which is the big parking lot. Obviously, the county fair would be the other partner we want to work with to see how do we want to lay this out and what use in this, you know, because obviously, if we put a new asphalt with large tents, we need to figure out, you know, they can still be able to stake into the asphalt. Is it gonna have to be more, you know, concrete blocks or other forms you can have tents staked down? So yeah, so there'll be a big part, because that's obviously a large capital project that we have on the works. Actually, that is on the proposal for next year, engineering. So this year's gonna be a big year working with partners to figure out where narrowing down that cost and narrowing down the options, so. So just throwing that out there, because obviously put the two together, Life Fest and Fair are the two big partners for that project.
What are you looking at for ticket prices this year? They're gonna, I know the Midway one's getting 35%. I doubt you're gonna get them back for 35%.
No, they're gonna get a little bit more than that, so. We're gonna stick with the same prices and hope we can. You know, as long as we break even, we're doing better than we have in past years. And we have money in the bank, but one bad fair would be.
Like,
I
you know,
mean, our budget for the fair is gonna be about $400,000. So we're gonna create $400,000 in revenues. So, hopefully, you know, I mean, a lot of people talk, there's different, you know, talk to about how to do the fair, whether you charge to get in or you don't, and ours is all inclusive, so it's, I guess it depends on who you are and how you look at it, which way is better, so. I know the carnival would rather just go to charging for the rides. People that do go on rides though, if you, I don't know, if you go to fairs, it's $35 to ride rides for 4 hours. So you come to our fair, you ride all day for $15, get into the grandstand, get into the grounds, see the projects and everything else. And Steve mentioned before, I was trying to think what I was, he said something on 4-H, but we're encouraging this year, we've got some Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts that are coming in. Any kind of community youth groups are all in, so we're looking for some of those kids exhibit and stuff too. So,
I know I brought it up at the extension meeting when they gave the presentation, but either, I mean, you call it VIP parking, but I'd like to see some like senior parking. Like I seen some old people walking with canes in their way in the back, you know, and it's hard for them to walk that far. You know, if we had some senior parking for them, it's all on even ground, you know, like when you park over there, the ground is uneven. There was water puddles all over, the walkers sink in the ground. You know, like if we had like the first 2 or 3 rows of parking for, you know, you want to call it VIP or senior parking, but just to get the seniors closer to the gate where the ground's solid, you know, up front, it's all gravel. In the back, it's all grass. And, you know, I see them walking with their, you know, their canes and, you know, once they get on the solid ground, they're fine, or a wheelchair. But you try to push a wheelchair from the back and, you know, there's a lot of them that come for the tractor pulls and you see where the wheelchairs are sitting. Well, they had to get there. And for them, it's really hard to push that wheelchair through that grass. So I mean, if we had something like that, I think would be beneficial to the elderly.
so that's one thing, we're better signage and hopefully our parking group this last year actually did a really good job, and we're hoping they're gonna come back. So we got an answer from. So, and from Steve's suggestion, we're gonna get better signage and stuff and try to put, there's not too much of that's on the asphalt anymore, but at least it's that solid gravel area. So we're gonna try to make that one senior and.
And on that note, with phase 2, at least at this point in the plans, it shows gravel parking, not necessarily with electrical and camping, but closer to the road, south of the asphalt parking lot. At this point, we have gravel listed on there, so that would also create a more reliable, flatter area for parking for events like that.
Yeah,
Especially since you'd still gonna use all the asphalt when we redo it, there still would have, if that stayed grass, obviously that would be in.
yeah, and that's, That's probably something we didn't really think about in the past, though, was kind of brought up a few times this past year, so. We're gonna try to create that handicap senior park up front. So the people coming into wood carving demonstration will.
Never know. I got it on the agenda for the fifth.
I haven't been to the fair in years, so I don't know about the senior parking, but do you guys operate similar to like how Life Fest does, where they pick up people in a golf cart? For parking
Yeah,
or?
we're gonna try that this year.
Okay.
Hopefully we can get enough golf carts to do it.
Sure.
At least for sure on senior day,
Okay,
which is on Friday.
yeah,
So Friday, we have the senior veterans day. And it's like $5 to get in.
oh, okay,
And then we're hoping to get some volunteers and some of the bigger golf carts to all groups of people. We do have the Picket Steam Club. They usually borrow us their big wagon, people mover or whatever,
sure,
but those are kind of hard for seniors to get on to sometimes.
yeah,
So, and we haven't used them in a few years.
okay. And then you said you needed food stands for the fair, do you know what the rental rate is for that?
It's based on like how much square footage you take,
Oh,
so.
okay, perfect, thank you.
Any other questions for Mike?
Here's a good thing for your budget, you, especially since you have kids. And I always eat at the pavilion where the 4-H kids are running those food booths, I mean, it's pretty darn good food for the price too.
You know, a lot of people say, well, they don't wanna ride the rides. If you get there before 8:30, you can walk in, they don't basically have a ticket booth doesn't open. If you just wanna look at the animal, you don't have to pay, you know, you get there before 8:30 before it opens up. And if you got, just wanna walk through the barns and look at the animal, they'll let you do that. You know, so it's not like a family of four's gotta pay $60, and the only thing they really wanna do is walk through the barns. If you just wanna walk through the barns and look at the animal, you know. Get there before 8:30 and then you can walk through all day and look at the barn. You won't be able to ride any rides or, you know,
Yeah.
grandstand, but
Do everything else, well, yeah.
you can see everything else. you
We have a
know.
lot of daycares, I'll come in the morning, walk through the barn. It's, you know, they come in for free, you can figure it out. Yeah, yeah, if you guys ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, I can get you my information or. Possibly answering questions or anything you have.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
You want to mail me a couple of membership tickets again?
All right, let's move to line item 9. We'll go to the discussion of possible action of the Netzer property home request to purchase.
All right, so within the last month,
Just give the
there was a resident that reached out
Yeah.
$60, right?
in regards to purchasing
I don't know
the Netzer house. So I have a map, so that way I can explain. A few years ago, we, in 2 separate purchases, purchased this property to the north here. You may recognize this from the fireworks PGI discussion. These properties, we talked about the annexing actually last meeting. So these are those same 2 properties. There was an individual who reached out to the county executive and also reached out to the town board chair. After talking to town board chair and county exec and to Supervisor Belleville, we decided to put on the agenda to see to get direction from the committee so the Netzer house is this house here. Supervisor Bender has talked about the barn. That's this here. There's a shed here, and then there's a garage here. And the idea 4 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago now, was when we bought this was to, well, there was 2 ideas. It was either going to be to tear down the house, or there was a proposal at one point for Rick's position to live in the house. So that way they were on site, rented, and then they would, you know, be on site for maintenance purposes, events, that kind of thing. That was not approved. So at this point, staff are proposing, and it wasn't in this year's budget and we've been working on it, but staff are proposing to remove the home. Now this person that offered to purchase, we just need to make a decision one way or another if we're going to remove the home and continue. The idea is with this property, to zoom out a little bit, is to have access to the property. So when this was, or access to the Sunnyview Expo property and have that buffer for our events and for parking and for, fire, the PGI, the Baja event is gonna be there in May. We have a lot of these events that are gonna start taking place back here, eventually, parking back here or camping back here. In the long range plan, there is the plan to utilize all this property. So the idea is to get so right now we have the driveway here. That's another discussion, but it's too close to the Fox Valley Technical College driveway, so it probably has to be moved more over to about here because of the 600 feet distance that's needed on county highways. After I talked to the county highway director, so 600 feet from the YMCA and 600 feet from Fox Valley Tech. So we'll probably end up moving the driveway to here. The idea is then that way you have access from here to get into this back property eventually. That's part of the phase 3 or 4 with the Sunnyview Expo is to get a access road in back here and then connect over to the access road here to create that loop. So what staff needs, staff's opinion is that we shouldn't sell the property because we just purchased it 4 or 5 years ago with the idea of utilizing this property, having that access, having the community garden. And so we've been working on the proposal to tear down the home, but in the meantime, this has come up. Basically, we're looking for direction,
Where the home is again?
Yep, right here. Right here is the
okay.
home. Yep.
Okay.
It hasn't, another factor is we toured it last year too. We've been paying for gas to heat it lately, so this just needs to happen. The barn's falling apart. The inside of the home, there was evidence of critters. There's wallpaper just peeling off the walls. It's not, there's mold in it. It's been sitting for 4 or 5 years.
I can see why Rick would want to live there.
Well, it does, number one, it has good bones. But it was in good shape because the family before obviously lived in it. But yeah, it's any house after sitting for 4 or 5 years, with just minimal heat on and obviously no maintenance, because no one's living in it. So basically, a conversation with the county board chair, with the county exec, with vice chair Belleville. We wanted to have it on the agenda to get a direction of which way we're to go. If the committee is okay with us continuing down the path that we planned for when it was purchased, we would work over the next month or two, so either March or April, to come back with a proposal to remove the home. County Highway has said that they could help with that, but we pay County Highway for work, so we would need a budget request for that. That all being said, we've thought about reaching out to fire departments to burn it first to save on cost a little bit there, and then County Highway can help actually just clean up the remains. We would need to cover we want to save the well because the well is used at the community garden. And obviously, it's a well that's in good shape. So we would want to save it. So we would need to enclose it with. Do we test that? Yeah, it should be because it's for the home. Yep. And
Well, yeah, but the home hadn't been used for 4 years.
true. I don't know if it's on our testing list or not.
Yeah, the plumber tested every
Okay.
spring before we turn it on for community garden. in case somebody had to.
So we would make a little shed over it with just a small heater in it, just so that obviously it doesn't freeze. So that we'd have that, we'd have the cost of tearing it down. And then whether or not we do the driveway right away, the cut for the driveway right away, I think that could either happen once we finally do the actual driveway, going all the way back in, or we could cut it and bring it up, up to where it is now, like the edge of the community garden. But that's something, and so basically, we would come back with a proposal with the cost and a budget adjustment, a budget request for that project. Unless the committee does want to consider selling, but that's kind of my information. I think I got everything there.
I don't know, so are we gonna plan on annexing into Oshkosh out of the town of Oshkosh, that area? And I will say also, I'm on the staff at the YMCA, and I ran into Jeff Schneider a week or so ago. And I asked him about the water condition at that facility. He says it's brown, and he says it's not, people only want to shower in it. And he says, we're gonna have to do something about water. So if that was the holdup,
Interesting.
that we would isolate them and make them an island.
Yep, it would make
And
it.
they would have to possibly I think they're looking at doing something about their water anyway, because.
And I have not talked to him about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't talk to, because I need to reach out to him anyways about PGI and fireworks in the backyard and stuff like that too. I have not reached out to anyone over there yet at this point.
Okay.
I have a question. I read on here purchase.
Yeah, that's for property home request to purchase.
Yeah, and I apologize, because there is a request from a community member to purchase. Now, I don't know for how much, there's been nothing, Corp Council talked to them, Corp Council talked to the resident. And the county executive and the town chair did, I have not.
That came up to the board a couple of years ago already. Somebody who wanted to open a bunny, I don't remember.
Yes.
Bunny farm or some. kind of
So
crazy
that
thing.
was when we were interested in purchasing it.
Yeah.
From what I understand, I wasn't here at that time, but from what I understand, I've read a lot of the information on it, and Tom was here during that time, and Supervisor Bender would have been on this committee at that time. We wanted to purchase it, but another family wanted to purchase it, and they wanted to open like a pumpkin farm.
that's
And
pumpkin,
yep,
that's funny.
yep. So but it fell through. The purchase fell through, so then the county was able to purchase it. The county purchased it. We already had this back parcel from, I think, the year before, the 2 years before that. So that really
Okay,
completed.
so we did end up
protection.
being able to purchase it, so now,
Correct.
so now someone wants to try to buy it back, value.
Someone wants to try to buy the home, which doesn't mean we'd sell the whole parcel, but you probably, I haven't done the research, but I would assume in the town of Oshkosh, you probably have to parcel out at least 5 acres.
Would they want to move the home someplace, or they want the home and property?
They want the home and property. So now you also have someone, yes, this property owner might be okay with fireworks in their backyards and Baja, the go-karts going across and other events. But what about 10 years from now when it's sold and that next person then buys it and the next, we have an event venue. We saw what happened, what's occurred with PGI, which is of course a different, obviously a larger scale, louder show, of course. But at the same time, that's what our venue is made for, is for large events. And we wanted this as access to continue to expand in the future. It's used for the community garden. The other factor to it is you can only have one driveway. So if we sold this home, now you're talking a shared driveway. So because we need to be able to access it, they need to be able to access it. So if there's snow, Tom's crew is probably gonna have to go out there and plow it within a certain amount of time for emergency purposes. Because obviously if they need to get an ambulance into the home, we have to maintain that as a, emergency access and for an access point for whoever the owner is. Or there has to be some sort of agreement that's worked out. My point is, now you're sharing a driveway and is that really 1,000 cars going through there? If we do end up creating a road through here for a large event like Life Fest, I don't know how many people would love that, 10 feet from their home, 1,000 cars pulling in and out.
Okay,
So,
I guess it's the property is not up for sale.
correct.
And so someone just came forward and said, here's a piece of property you own, we'd like to buy it.
Mhm.
But we can turn that down, it doesn't have.
Oh,
to-
yeah. The reason it comes in front of the committee is because a purchase of county property is a board decision.
County board.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. So that's why Tom said, bring it forward to the Parks Committee if the Parks Committee is okay with taking it up and, get a direction and then go from there.
Pretty much, does anybody want to sell it? Would we want to sell it on this committee? And if we all say no, then we're pretty much moving on to like, let's get them to move forward to go take this thing down so we can really start experiencing the whole Sunnyview Expo, make it easier for them.
And we should have tore it down a couple of years.
Probably
ago.
when we
The reason we bought that property is community park was bought on a grant that doesn't allow paid parking. We had 5 years from about 2 years ago to move all the parking over to the expo site. Because the grant money that was bought, it's a community park. You can't charge for parking in there. We got an extension to charge for 5 more years, and I think it was like 2 years ago.
You can charge for parking. There's a little bit of misconception there. You can charge for parking up to the state daily fee. So the state daily fee currently is $8. So we can technically charge for parking there for $8 a day. And I've ran through all this with the grant coordinator with the DNR. So, and you do have to have public access. So as an example, Life Fest parks, north of the roundabout by the soccer park. So there's still access on the south side and they still leave the dog park parking lot open. So there's still access. And you're only supposed to charge what the state fee is. Similar to boat landings.
Charge $10 now.
Correct. So there is a little bit of, yeah, correct.
Or see parking going down. The object was to keep all the parking on the expo side so that the people didn't have to cross over County Road Y. And we have to have 2 police officers there basically controlling traffic. So that's why we bought that 40 acres. And I was at the PGI conference. They're gonna be shooting off 12-inch shells. The average shell for a fireworks at Menominee Park is 6 to 8 inch. These shells are massive. They're gonna be shooting off. So could you imagine being in the house right behind that house and we're gonna shoot them off? I mean, I couldn't imagine being in that house and having a 12-inch shell. I mean, you look at it, it's that big going off, and having them going off for 2-3 hours, it probably rattle your windows. So it's like, the whole purpose of buying this was to create parking for the expo center. And the last person that tried to buy the house, the well didn't pass the test, the septic didn't pass the test, they couldn't get a loan. You know, so that's why that deal fell through when the county bought the house. So my recommendation would be to turn this down and tear the house down, and that's what we originally bought the piece of property for, and that's the direction we should follow.
That sounds great. That's kind of what we talked about a little bit. We just kept it as a possible action so you guys could all talk about it too, because I didn't
I
want to.
see no good coming out of this.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody was on the same
Somebody
page too, and it seems like, I kind of think that's where we're at.
Yeah, if that's the direction the committee is giving, then Tom, myself, Rick, will work on basically, and highway, of course, we'll work on, we already made highway aware, Bob Damel's aware, he said that this is something they could definitely help us with. We'll reach out to fire departments to see if anyone's interested. I know they'd be at least interested, Rick said, in training, I know.
Town of Oshkosh is showing interest. in
Okay.
training.
So at least training, and maybe we can then convince them, can you also help us burn it down to keep the well safe? So, yeah,
You got separate, you got electricity out there though right now, correct? To run the
Yeah.
well, you have to.
yeah, so we
So you
keep,
just
we
make
want to
sure-
keep some of those guts, exactly, because I mean, you don't want to have to, it's nice to have the well out there, you have the community garden, you don't want to have to re-drill a well, so.
And the plan would be is to build an 8x8 shack over the wellhead. To bring the electricity into there, operate the wellhead.
All right,
for
then
everything.
just put heat tape on it.
Just, just,
We
Something
don't even
that-
need heat tape.
well,
No one's living there in the winter.
we could technically use an exposed panel, but, for an electrical panel, we just prefer to keep it inside of a shed, and it would just be a shed. Very, we were actually thinking of using some of the old barn boards as cladding on it, just to make it
I
look
was
like.
gonna say, you got a whole barn there you could have. Well, I'm not,
If the board, I'm assuming it's gonna go to the board, the whole county
We
board.
don't have to vote on this one, sorry.
Oh.
This is just,
No,
We're
from
just
what I
kind of in
understand, it doesn't
agreement.
have to go to the whole county board, it's not a formal request to purchase, they verbally requested a purchase.
Yeah, I wonder, how fast can we just go ahead and take this house down so we can stop this?
Well, we can
This
bring
your house
this
has been
back
on-
in March.
On
more than
the
likely.
thing for years.
Yeah.
It goes back and forth, people wanting it, people not falling, it's
Yeah.
falling through.
I think we can have it on the, as long as we can get all our prices in order by March, I think it can be on the next committee meeting.
Okay,
And then that would go to the board because it would be a budget request, we'll go to P and F, and then we'll go to the board in April. So, and then it's just getting it into a schedule with the town of Oshkosh, if they still can do it, the fire department and the highway department.
I'd make a motion to deny selling the house and tear it down.
second. Burn it down.
Tear it down, everyone do it. Get rid of it.
do we have to do that?
I mean, you guys can make a formal motion, I don't think there's any harm to it.
Got
I,
action on there. so-
yeah,
It's at possible,
I'm all,
yeah.
I'm in agreement too, so I'm gonna put this moved and seconded to not have a purchase and I guess take down the house. Any debate in regards to that? No debate, all right, all those in favor say aye,
Right.
all those not in favor say nay. Motion approved. Okay, moving on to the budget adjustment for the Bago donation.
that Winnebago, is that Bago?
No, this is our bagel program.
Oh, okay.
So these are the next three items are three minor, but I mean, in our opinion, minor budget adjustments, but. Most of them are kind of more semantics. I'm just getting to here we are. Is this, nope, next one. This is the bagel program. We received a $5,000 donation from Lapham Hickey Steel. So we want to what you'll see on the, and I'm gonna zoom in here just so you can see it better. If you're looking at the screen, otherwise it's in your packet too, but basically what you'll see is there's an increase in 5,000 in revenue, but there's also an increase in 5,000 expense. So really the budget adjustment request we're asking for is, sorry, it's a different form that it used to be, is $0. The budget impact is $0. It says 5,000, but I'm not sure if finance put this together because it's a new form. The point is we're raising expense by 5,000, but we're raising revenue by 5,000. So it's a wash. We're just asking for permission to basically adjust the budget to continue to put on the bagel programs and utilize the money this year.
So moved.
It is moved and seconded to adopt the budget adjustment. Any debate? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor, say nay. Motion approved. Moving on to the budget adjustment for the Oshkosh United soccer donation.
This one's a little new. Do we receive this check yet? Okay, but we do have a written email and verbal approval that they from their board. United Soccer approached us last summer, Tom and I, about getting more electric out at the community park for they have like their big Oshkosh on the Water soccer tournament. And they have vendors that come and they want to put in electrical pedestals. So we looking at their needs. They want to put in a 30 amp and a 20 amp, 4 of them electrical pedestals along that gravel path behind the soccer shelter. Staff feel it's only going to enhance the park. It'll be available for all their park users. You know, if there's other events that want to use it. County Facilities is aware of it, and they have it on their schedule to get it done by June 5th, 6th. That is when that first weekend in June, when their event is. And so yeah, we're looking, we priced it out, our facilities priced it out at $7,500. They'd be giving us a grant for $7,500. And once again, they give us $7,500 and we'd spend $7,500 and facilities would install it.
One more thing is when we rebuilt the shelter, we had anticipated this need, so we have a conduit that goes from the panel underground to where we need it. So that was, we just couldn't afford to put the panel.
And
The wire alone is thousands.
And I should add, Parks is gonna help. We're gonna help install, you know, obviously we can't do electrical work, but we're gonna help us with conduit, help with trenching, help with installing the posts that they go on. So we're to do as much as we can to help. So it's not, so facility, even if there's 2 staff that need to work on it, it'll only be 1 facility staff to help them with their staff too.
What would it actually be used for? What would they plug in?
So like they have like a good one, like basically, you know, like food trucks. A lot of them can then just plug in rather than using a generator. So it makes it a lot easier for their vendors to just plug and play. So.
And it, across multi events, the Hmong festivals, this would be ideal for them. Soccer Saturday, all their ancillary vendors and that.
Yeah.
Without running extension cords up to the shelter.
Well, I just wanted to make sure it
Yeah.
wasn't for charging like electric cars and.
No,
You get
no,
fast charging,
it'll be in the,
it's $30.
it'll be out of the parking lot.
Heck of a bill.
Yeah,
People are flying kites and charging their electric.
Control for the source, so.
Yeah, it's gonna have a sub panel, so we can turn these off as well. Yeah, but yeah, I think there's room for growth. I think they said too, for 1, 2 or 3 more panels if we wanted, so.
I think this is a dumb question, but if we have these things out there. You know, and, you know, in the middle of the night, people are out, could people come out and start plugging in their own. Campers or.
You could have that just about everywhere, but yeah, it could, but again, in the main panel that is fed by a 100 amp breaker that we would shut off. And
Okay,
only turn it on during the events.
okay, that's what I was wondering, all right,
Um,
wasn't a dumb question. I guess.
and over at the expo, you have that right now where. A lot of the pedestals are live year round.
Okay.
But we don't have.
Some of the pedestals have the cover that you can lock to, worst case scenario, but I mean, it's much easier to just flip a breaker rather than deal with them.
Yeah, electrical theft right now is few and far between. I mean, I have not witnessed it.
Okay.
Other discussion? I'd like to move.
I'll move it.
All right, it's moved and seconded for the budget adjustment. Is there any debate? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor say nay. Motion approved. Moving on to the budget adjustment 2022 registration tuition.
This is the one I explained during the budget. This is the $350 budget adjustment. They round. I know it's at 333, but they round, finance does. So 350 increase because of the now this one is a true coverage of the 2022 budget to make it whole. But as you could see, the 260,000 that we were over, or, you know, positive in revenue and expense. Obviously, the rest of our budget can cover this, but it just has to be, it's a formal thing that a lot of departments have to do at this time. So if anyone has any other questions about it, absolutely I can answer.
I move forward with the budget transfer for the registration tuition.
It is moved and seconded to adopt the budget adjustment. Any debate? All those in favor say aye. All those not in favor say nay. Motion approved. And then we need the update on PGI.
All right, I can give an update on PGI. can't remember, he was just supervisor bidder, yeah, there were some other supervisors at the meeting as well, so there was the open house, the town hall meeting. That was actually right here, because their space was taken by their fire department. Was a good meeting, a lot of 40-50 people showed up. Carol from PGI was there from Texas. She did a great job answering questions, and it was really good to have them here because obviously they're the ones actually firing off fireworks and know more about their event than me, Tom, Rick, Justin. We're going to continue to learn more about it because it did get approved by the town board. So we do have approved fireworks permits from the town and the city. We also have a MOU that we have worked on before this to make sure that, county time is being used appropriately. Make sure we're not gonna get all this approval and then can't come to an agreement on a contract. Now Rick is working on the contract, and we hope to have a contract within the next couple of weeks. We've already in the MOU agreed upon things that in the past PGI said no to, so like insurance and stuff like that. So honestly, they've already, as Supervisor Binder heard in their open house, they've already started renting some equipment, and they're planning on having their event here in August. And for all intents and purposes, staff is planning as well, and hopefully we just get the semantics of the contract all signed and finalized, and we'll have PGI here this summer in August. So that's I probably won't ask for this update on future agendas because I think I'll just give updates during my director update. Yeah, we're in good shape.
Did the town chairman agree? I take it.
It was voted 3-0. I should add, there was a 3-0 vote.
Okay,
So,
that was good.
And he did come and talk to me as well. He emphasized, that hope it's a good event, and then let's reevaluate it after the year, after the event's over. Just like we would definitely want to do, and obviously we want to reach out to other YMCA and other organizations around the area just to let them know what's going on too.
Is that gonna put the annexation on hold then?
The annexation, I think at this point, I don't think it's a topic that we shouldn't bring up in the future, but I also don't think it's an immediate need for the department from a staff standpoint. I don't see it as immediate a need.
Well, you guys were at the meeting. I applaud you because I didn't think it'd go.
I didn't either.
There was actually very little opposition, maybe 6 people, and they were more worried about the horses and their cows. A few people were concerned about Park View, and I told them, I lived in North Park Estates, probably a little over a mile from here. And when Light Fest and the fireworks, I have to close my windows. So I close my windows, I really don't hear it. So it's not that big of a deal. I mean, when I built there, I knew there's pros and cons of living next to a park. You weigh the good with the bad. So this is here for, 2 nights. And they're gonna have public fireworks, which will be their biggest displays. And other than that, they shoot the fireworks off, and then it's judged. It might take 15 minutes before they shoot the next firework, So it's not like it's continuous, like you go to the Menominee Park. On public night, it will be like that. They'll set up a huge display and they'll shoot that off. And then they'll set up another display and shoot that off. And they do have a permit that can shoot fireworks till 1 o'clock in the morning. They said they will try to be done by midnight, but if they have rain or wind, they have to basically shut down. So them days, they may be shooting off till 1 o'clock. But like I explained, if this doesn't work out, the city of Oshkosh will not give them another permit. So you don't have to worry about the town of Oshkosh, because if this event doesn't turn out and they get way too many complaints, the city of Oshkosh, just like they shut the other states down, they'll shut this down this fast. It's a one-time deal. If everything goes great, it'd be nice if we could get them back in 4 years. If it's a flop, well, it'll be a one-time shot. So I didn't think we'd have any opposition. I talked to the 2 supervisors afterwards. They both were in favor of it. I didn't talk to Mr. Erdman, but I thought the meeting went well.
Thanks for going too, for, our whole group, having one of us go. That's great. And I think the annexing thing, I thought was kind of a crazy idea, but, we talked about it. It kind of pushed it forward a little bit, and made people thanks a lot. And also you guys for doing this. I think it's going to be a huge thing. And I think it's great to have another event where a bunch of people are going to show up. That's what the exposition center is for a bunch of people to come. So nice job to you guys, and for everybody here too, for just saying yes to it. So awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of the PGI update.
Okay, Parks Director update.
All right, and I'm gonna combine all the updates into one, just try this out. Obviously, staff is here to ask questions or answer questions if you have other questions too, or other comments or thoughts. So basically I have, we'll just start out. So the Grumman boat landing, some of these you get through your Friday updates, but. So I try to only take the highlights, but the Grumman boat landing project received a low bid in the amount of $1,749,000. From Yankee General Contractors of Athens. They do a lot of work. I don't know if you've heard Yankee, but they do DOT work. They do work all over the state and outside of the state. So they do dredging and a lot of in-water work, all in-house. So they're a very good contractor. We're very happy that they came in within budget. We received 5 bids. They were the only one within budget. The next one up was Vinton Construction, very reputable contractor as well. They were only 5 or 10,000 above our budget. So we are within budget and we did have a pretty good grouping. I will say, so our construction budget, so I said $1,749,000 is what they came in at. Our construction budget, including contingency, is $1,791,000. So that is a difference of $41,000 for contingency. Typically, you'd like to have a 5% contingency going into construction now that you have a bid, especially when you're working in water. Now, we've done a lot of due diligence. We've done archaeological, we've done borings, and we did a biometric survey of the water. So 5% would be 87,000. So just so you're aware, we're kind of operating this project on a 2.5% contingency. But overall, running water, like we've talked about as a committee, the bathroom, the kayak launch, everything is included in the project. And so it's exciting to move forward with Grumman. So also as a reminder, just if anyone asks you, we have it on our page as you buy a boat landing permit, and we're putting it in newsletters, but the construction now will start July 5th. Contractors are worried about doing the work in spring due to the dredging limitations that they had to wait till June 16th to start dredging. So we actually flipped the project to the second half of the year, which will be better anyways from the fisherman standpoint. The more people fish in the spring out there anyway. So all that being said, it'll open in spring and it'll close after July 4th. So through July 4th and then July 5th, it'll be closed for construction. So I'm also working on the NRDA grant for $400,000 for that project was officially approved. It was more of a formality than anything. So that's exciting. We're recruiting summer staff already. I know Tom's already been talking to some staff, or potential staff, I should say. We're working with HR. We actually met we have a new HR rep. So she's gonna be great to work with. So we're excited to continue trying to get last year we had 5 or 6 seasonal. We do a lot of our own recruiting in-house, just knowing, reaching out to family members that we know or friends that we know. We had 6 last year and I know some departments only had 1. But we do try to do the legwork to do it. I'm hoping to present the Shangri-La master plan in March. I just try and set up a meeting with my supervisor or with my county executive just to run through it with them before we provide you guys with the master plan. But I'm very excited about the master plan for this property we've owned since 95, 96, and it's just been sitting there. Tom and I are pretty excited about it. We think we're at a phase, we have a phased approach, and we think phase 2 and or 2-3 will be candidates for grants and donations. Highway projects, we're working with the highway on a few projects this year, just so you're aware. We're working on the Wyowash Trail swap, which is from UW Oshkosh up to Lake Butamore Drive. It's a 3-mile stretch of the Wyowash Trail that's going to go to the city of Oshkosh. And we're working with the city on that swap, and then the highway department would be doing work to move portions of that trail by the old Axel Tech property in Spellman's Marina in the city of Oshkosh. Wyowash Trail maintenance, we have our yearly maintenance with them. We have the community park parking lots. We met with them. They're going to get us a cost estimate to see how many more parking lots we can tackle with the remaining budget we have from last year's project. We're going to start over by the rugby parking lots and do the 2 rugby ones for sure. Hopefully even get the tennis court parking lot done. If we can get a 4th one in, which I think it's going to be 3 parking lots, we'll do the one by Shelter 4. And then the Netzer property, obviously that's going to hopefully be on their list now for this year. I'll be on vacation actually starting tonight, so I'll be out tomorrow through morning of March 1st. So if you need anything, give Justin a call in the office or shoot me an email. But I will be out of the office. I'll be on a cruise, so I won't even actually have access to email at some points. From a park standpoint, we're continuing to work on the buoys. Goal is to get that completed by the end of this week, but we have had some staff that have been out, so whether or not that gets completely done by the end of the week, but we're working on buoys. We have tree removals as they continue. The large tree by Asylum Bay that Tom talked about at last meeting is now removed. Staff are getting equipped, are getting equipment ready, prepped for the summer. And we're down to 2 to 3 staff right now. Today we have a staff member at jury duty. And we have one out on FMLA, and we have one training for CDL up at Fox Valley Technical College. So we have 2 staff working right now in the maintenance department. So hopefully that trial is short for jury duty, because it's actually a federal court one. So maybe you won't even get picked. But anyway, on the expo side of things, I'm happy to report, I talked about the revenue from last year, talked about how the calendar has been filling up last year and even this year. We have 2 open weekends from now through September. Rick keeps working really hard to get that booked up. He's already starting to work on 2024 contracts. So from here on out, we only have 2 open weekends. So hopefully we can even fill those weekends. Some just unique events that are coming back. The circus is coming back and the monster truck show is coming back. And then the Baja event in May with Oshkosh Corporation is a brand new one on a weekend, like first weekend of May, which normally we have nothing. So just due to weather. And then programming marketing, we've been talking about Bago. The February Valentine's Day event went really well. In March, out of Ken Roble, we have the March event going on where they have to find the gold coins for St. Patrick's Day. And then Bago, we have the big Easter hunt, a glow in the dark Easter egg hunt in April, and that's actually what we're meeting on at 10:45 here. Shelters and boat rentals are still open, and then park and expo contracts, as I mentioned, are being worked on too by Justin, because he gets them out to the actual event organizers after Rick gets some things situated, so he makes sure that gets all with insurance and such. So those are the department updates. If you have any questions for any of us, let us know.
Steve, on the parking lots, Adam, what are our plan? I mean, if 750,000 originally was to do all the parking lots, now it's gonna run short.
Right.
Do we want to go to the county board and get more money to finish them?
It is a
If we're not
cap.
gonna do that, then I think
Yeah.
the least we should do is chip seal them.
I think I personally, from a park standpoint, I would like to, long-term, I'd like to just get them all done. Now, some of them, like the dog park one, that was overlaid, that one's in good shape. The shelter 2 one is in good shape because that was redone on a separate project.
Yep.
The pavilion is a big question mark. So as you guys may have seen in the updates too, the comprehensive outdoor rec plan, we did get a low bid. So we're gonna be working with MSA on that. They did the Walcott Dam, so you'll be seeing more of MSA this year. In that plan is actually a master plan for the park, like the whole park. I know we've kind of pieced together master plans for those of you that haven't been on the committee. We need a master plan for the whole park. What is the plan for the park? Because I hesitate to redo the whole pavilion parking lot at this point. Do we need all that asphalt for the pavilion parking lot? Or can we shorten it potentially? So there's some of those questions I think we want to get cleared up this year. And maybe it's something we look at for the capital improvement plan for next year, getting it slotted into a year that works for the highway and works from an overall CIP standpoint. To your question, yes, I would like to get them all done and be done with them and do them the right way, like we've been doing. I'd like to pulverize them and do them right. So that way they can last another, Tom and I were figuring these have been almost original parking lots. So we'd like them, rather than just, either continuing to chip seal them or to mill them and, overlay, we'd rather just pulverize them, get them done right. So,
Because right now, they're only 2 inches. Parking lots we put in 4 inches.
Yeah.
So they should easily last 30 years.
absolutely. And a long range, I'd like to do that. My only holdup with asking for the rest at this point is just figuring out that pavilion parking lot, only because that's a lot of pavement. And do we really need that much pavement, before we invest that much money into it? I think as a committee, we'll want to look at that this year at that master plan and the community, not just the committee, but the community and the committee. What do we want to do with that pavilion? Because the pavilion's also getting old too, as we all know too. If you've toured that pavilion, maybe we should tour the community park this summer, and some of the buildings, and kind of just walking in some of the shelters and buildings, rather than going to so many different destinations. Maybe the community park might be a good one for that this year with the corp. So
On the pavilion originally, it was a swimming beach.
Right.
So, you literally brought hundreds of people in. It doesn't have that use anymore.
Right.
So the parking lot probably is overkill.
Right.
For the need that we have today.
Yep.
Is there boating? Is there boating?
No, it used to be swimming,
Oh,
Yeah, you could take a kayak on it.
probably 10 years ago.
remember there was this discussion about whether you could, in some of the parking lots, whether you'd have to back your thing in and out, because there was no way of turning around a boat.
Oh, that was a Grumman. That was a Grumman
Oh,
bowl
okay.
landing. Yep.
I know we kind of mixed that in, but any staff updates?
If you have any questions, you know, we're just trying a new format. We can go back to our old format. It really doesn't matter. to
Nope,
me.
that's
So whatever you
totally
guys
fine.
like, whatever you prefer, yeah, you guys let me know.
One thing, I didn't know if you included it in the trail there, where we had individuals that with this access to Lake Butamore
Hmm.
with the Department of Transportation, you know where I'm talking about?
Oh, the update on that. Yes, you know what? I could have included that in my update. Good question. I did reach out to the DOT. It is at appraisal right now. So they're appraising the property. She was hoping to get something back to me within the next month. An update. So far, we're still on track for our year, in terms of, you know, taking the year. But yes, thank you, because there was that small update. I emailed her about 2 weeks ago and she gave me that update. So it was kind of radio silence. But they're working on it.
On that note, I was just thinking this because I didn't realize it, that they allow horses on that.
Yes, we do allow horses on the trail.
And this would only be during the winter,
Correct.
so if you had had a time limit for using that trail with these ATVs, it might be feasible.
As long as maintenance wise, yeah, because
I wanna get the free parking lot,
'cause-
okay?
if you go up north and yeah, go up north and look at the ATV snowmobile trails that are used for both and biking, there's no bikers on those trails. They're rutted pretty bad. Down to grass and dirt.
Use them all year too.
Yes, I mean, if we want to turn it.
We're not even there yet. okay?
Yeah, as I say, if you want to turn it into an ATV trail, anyways, yeah, I suppose not topic.
Any committee updates?
I got one.
Okay.
I just, like the trees like that's on in County Park, if we could get somebody to cut them shooters off, I mean, we got quite a few trees that look like that. And in the spring, when we get some seasonal, we can just give them a little handsaw.
Yeah.
And send them out there, I mean, that's several years worth of growth that just didn't happen, you know, and. It just takes
Yeah,
doesn't make the park look nice when you got all them shooters around the bottom, and we got probably 20-25 trees that.
We, on our pure maintenance basis, we started at Snell Road, gone north, and we are, you know, up to shelter 4.
Yeah.
We're about halfway through there.
You might have seen Kyle out there. Yeah,
That's
Kyle
one of
was doing a
Kyle's
lot.
main projects, that's where he's taken that, you know, under his wing. And I hesitate giving seasonals us off, because they could do more damage than good. You know, if they don't cut it off right, then you got a scar. And
Yeah, that'd just be nice if we get it.
we are, the process. This winter, a little slower on tree removal than we were hoping, just because of staffing.
Yeah,
Had to cover the expo so much.
We've been down one staff since December because of a major surgery. So hopefully she comes back in March, but we've been down one for 3
Staff
months.
and weather, we've cut down 100 trees, but we were looking at 200 trees.
The most comments I get from people when I'm walking out there is the gravel piles in the street.
We're gonna get that gravel pile cleaned up this year, whether we put it in storage or whether we spread it out, we'll get it out of there this year, absolutely. I agree with the gravel.
You know, we talked about last time, or I did, is we definitely gotta get some more people for these guys.
Oh, we need more people.
Cause man, it seems like it's a lot of work and you guys are doing a lot of work. So I will emphasize that until you guys have enough where you're annoyed about it, that we get somebody for you, but I feel like, gosh, we need people out there working on those.
Well, I
piles.
appreciate it. I mean, for instance, this last Monday, we had a staff member who was out sick this weekend. I mean, we had a huge gun show across the way. Well, we're cleaning up on Monday, you know, our staff have to clean up over there, but then we have 2 out, and so now 2 are cleaning. So really, 1 was out around the other 1,000 acres that we have, you know, so, yeah, it's. Especially as we fill the expo, because we've been talking about fill the expo and get program. Well, it's filled, so now what? So now we need to be able to maintain.
For an
it.
example, in the last 2 days, we've spent approximately 9 hours picking up garbage and fixing signs that were run over by trucks, just stuff like that. Just stuff you cannot plan, you know, just happens. So last night, somebody decided to clean out their garage and put it along the Silent Bay Road, so. We're gonna spend 2 hours and $50 getting rid of it.
We find couches and TVs and.
oh, gee.
We'll get to the trees, I guess, then.
Yeah.
After that. Like,
Well, you know, like the garbage inside the road. Yeah, that draws attention immediately.
Big time. Next meeting date, I
We
think,
still do this week,
sorry.
committee updates. We only got to him.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, and I don't know if this is a committee update or this should go into future agenda items, but by next month, I'd like us to know what the golfing and the lawn stuff. How it's gonna change our
Oh.
meeting times,
That's, yeah.
That's up to you guys, yep.
and so.
Because are we
by
going
next
through
week, by
May
next-
or to May? I can't
Is it
remember.
what?
I was just gonna talk about that
Were you?
when we got to the, like, the
Okay.
meeting, because then, yeah,
Is that-
I would love to discuss that.
On my list, I had through May, 9 AM, but I wasn't. In
Yeah.
the back of my mind, I was wondering, is May 9 AM or is May back to 3?
I don't
So,
know.
just so that way I can make sure the room,
So maybe
That's why we had to go
maybe
to
it's a
D.
future agenda, but
So-
you have it,
Yeah, I will say any more committee updates then.
no, that's it, that's all I have, do you have any?
Nope.
Okay, so then we'll go, nope, Rachel, are you good?
Oh, I was just gonna say, well, when the DAC was still operational, I had gone through and made a list of like community events, and I was wondering if maybe we could consider that as the county board picking one to host,
like,
at
you
the
know,
expo center.
like to host a community event? Okay,
Yes,
okay. Do you know, like,
I can send you a list.
okay,
if that
oh,
helps.
perfect, okay,
Yeah,
all right,
but
awesome,
no pressure, just
Okay.
there's a lot of work that was put in.
sure, yeah,
He's sad to see it go to waste.
Okay.
so.
Awesome. Okay, so next meeting date, is everybody okay with March 28th, 2023 at 9 AM?
In my calendar.
Is the 9 AM thing gonna be a constant?
What's-
That's the discussion to coming up with.
Oh,
When the
okay.
golfing and the lawn care stuff comes in, so.
Yeah,
Major
so,
And I
discussion in
missed the
December.
golfing and lawn.
yeah, so I
stuff.
guess we don't have to vote on the meeting time, so we'll just move on to future agenda items. So Steve loves to golf.
Oh.
And so we've made it to 9 AM because I think, Steve, you golf in the morning,
I go in the afternoon at 3 o'clock,
afternoon at 3
and it's like
o'clock.
a club, yeah.
and Josh's only day off is on Tuesday,
Okay,
and Jim cuts grass, he don't get done till 3 o'clock on. So I don't know how we're gonna come up with a meeting time, because the only day we can meet is on Tuesday, I can meet Tuesday at like 5:30, you know.
I'm literally, guys, anytime on Tuesday. So like for me, I'm whatever, I'm okay. So I'm just gonna say that, and if anybody has time issues, go for it, but I'm like free.
Okay,
the whole
well,
day.
tell me, you golf at 3. You get done, you're
At
working
3.
until 3.
I get to pick my own days sometimes.
But are you available,
Take a good help.
are you available for golf for,
Golf is tough.
are you,
I
available-
run them damn little balls.
are you available for not mowing, what about,
I'm available in the afternoons also.
I just
but are you
gotta,
available at 9?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I would prefer a later meeting time, 5:30, fine with me.
You know, for me, I take off one Tuesday for the county board meetings, so it's really
Oh,
hard.
my God, that's right.
To take off, you know, pretty soon my golfing partner will say, well, why do you even go? You never can make it.
how long do you usually golf for? Or how like?
Well, we start at, if I can get the other team usually out there by 2:30, so I can be done probably by 5 o'clock. You
Could
know,
could you do 5:30? Could we?
That'd be tough. I've had a
Yeah.
standing 7 o'clock thing for 3 years on Tuesday nights. And meeting at 5:30 would mean I would not make that 7 o'clock. Which I skipped on county board nights, but. I thought,
And we do a county board on Tuesdays.
right, well,
Do I, do
we wouldn't schedule this on a county board night.
do I dare say like a Thursday night at 6?
yeah, I can do it. I can do.
Would that
basically
be okay?
Because it also means that staff has to come in late,
Oh, yeah, shoot, I don't wanna
because they've got to
like,
open up
sorry,
doors and all that kind of stuff.
you're so right, yeah, I don't wanna like do
No,
that.
we don't want to do
Can
that.
we do Thursday at 3:30?
That I can't. The
Fourth,
fourth,
the other day I go.
I work from
Yeah.
5.
the fourth
I go
Thursday
Thursday
of
at
every
5
month.
Okay.
The fourth.
Golf course, just
I mean, I'm in, that's okay.
Can we just bring that thing, we'll be
bring
fine.
your golf car, drive us around. By the next meeting in March, we've got to come up with some, here's what I could, here's what I can,
Yeah,
and let's try and get those blended together.
yeah, let's do that, maybe like everybody like just bring like whatever times you can make, like I could do like lunch times, like I have long lunches, but. It'd be pushing it, I have to be like out, so I hate like,
But you're still golfing at lunchtime, right?
this could be like a Monday or a Wednesday, but again, that's
You
like.
don't start till 3 o'clock,
I don't
but you're
know if that's-
mowing it. But they let you have lunch?
I don't even wanna go into that.
Well, what time do you start at?
Those school districts.
Well, I don't know this coming year, we were starting at 6 in the morning, but people were complaining. I complained about that. I knew they would.
Cause yeah, I was just thinking like maybe like try earlier at 8 AM, but if that conflicts with your mowing.
Will you know by next month what the schedule's gonna be for school mowing?
I have no idea.
Can you call them?
They don't know. I called, people quit there faster than they do for the county, I think.
You know, our department does a pretty good job.
Come work for the county, I'll give you time off.
Actually, that's a great idea.
I'll
give us
I
two-
can't do that. It's conflict of
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah, I just don't wanna do that for you guys too. I don't want you to come here 6 to 8 PM. That would be awful. Well, we're
My
at a
biggest-
standstill, guys, and a very bad one at best. You know, I guess, so you won't know your schedule, huh?
No.
And you just can't go because you have
You're
kids.
done by three? Sure,
Start at 3. I can get the other team there probably a little early.
Well, you know your schedule by April. Cause really, you guys don't have to set it till
Oh, yeah,
April.
we're done.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to set it till April going into May.
Yeah, so let's just,
Alright.
let's wait till the big guy over here gets the mowing schedule and then we'll try to hash it out again.
If
We
they
don't-
can
we don't
get
want-
people, I won't even do it. I feel guilty. There is nobody to do anything anymore,
Sure.
because that's,
Well, I guess we'll just, when it
Alright.
gets closer, we'll go from there.
Don't mind my
Okay.
harsh code of schedule.
yeah.
It's okay. I appreciated it.
Yep. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion and second to adjourn the meeting. Any debate? All those in favor say aye. All the not in favor say nay. Motion approved, meeting adjourned.
You know, if we did it the same day as the county board,